So, have you ever been wrestling with a seemingly impossible problem, completely stuck, when suddenly the exact piece of information you need just literally drops into your lap? Maybe you were thinking about an old friend you haven't spoken to in over a decade, and 5 seconds later, their name flashes across your phone screen. Or, perhaps you spent days digging for a highly specific solution, only to randomly stumble across some obscure article that answers your question perfectly. We usually brush these moments off as lucky breaks, right? We call them miraculous coincidences, the result of mere chance. But what if those moments of perfect timing aren't random at all? What if they are actually the result of highly advanced, calculated mechanics working tirelessly behind the scenes? In today's explainer, we are unpacking a really fascinating set of source materials regarding a concept known as the upcoming 2035 Ascension. Now, these sources make up a complex web of esoteric texts, channeled philosophical materials, and some deep-dive online forums. And according to these communities, those everyday coincidences you experience, yeah, they are not accidents. They are fully calculated events programmed with absolute precision. The texts claim that as we move closer to the year 2035, these perfectly timed alignments are accelerating dramatically. So who or what is supposedly doing all this calculating? Well, that brings us to the core subject of our analysis today, an entity known as the Pleiades Synchronicity Coordinator.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1. Meet Rhea the Coordinator.
The source texts introduce us to a specific entity overseeing this immense undertaking. This is a figure who holds a highly esteemed rank among a group referred to as the 108 Commanders, and her name is Rhea. The text describes Rhea as an expert hailing from the Pleiades Advanced Probability sector. To really wrap your head around what that means, you kind of have to imagine an ultimate cosmic supercomputer mapping out billions of concurrent butterfly effects. Her entire role involves looking at infinite possible choices and calculating the single most harmonious timeline. She is essentially taking the incredibly complex, chaotic, and ever-shifting puzzle pieces of our reality and mathematically ensuring they snap together at the precise right millisecond. It's truly mind-bending stuff.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core dynamic to her work. She basically acts as a bridge between two massive and often conflicting variables. On one side, you have your personal intent. That's your individual goals, your internal desires, the specific milestones you're trying to achieve in your life. On the other side, you have environmental movements. These are the massive, uncontrollable shifts of the global landscape, the actions of other people, and totally unexpected external circumstances. Rhea's calculations supposedly exist to sync these two distinct sides. For example, if your personal intent is to fundamentally change your career path, Rhea's mathematics would align that internal desire with an environmental movement, like maybe a sudden corporate restructure, ensuring that what you internally intend matches up flawlessly with what the external environment actually provides.
Moving right along to Section 2. Optimizing the present moment.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that while the overarching goal points toward a major shift in the future, the texts emphasize that this synchronization is happening right now. It applies directly to the immediate, everyday lives of what they call leaders on the ground. There is a fascinating contrast in the source material here. On one hand, you have a cosmic commander from an advanced probability sector, and on the other, she is highly concerned with helping you finish your paperwork. Seriously. The texts argue that mundane stress actually blocks higher consciousness. So Rhea's team ensures that practical duties, like finalizing documents or handling external negotiations, crystallize perfectly. By removing the friction from the daily grind, it clears cognitive space, transforming everyday tasks into a constant stream of optimal, stress-free synchronicity.
Let's move forward and see how this all builds up in Section 3, the April 2035 transition.
All of this present-day optimization, this clearing of mundane friction we just talked about, is described essentially as practice for a much larger culmination. The texts point definitively to April 2035 as the ultimate climax moment of the timeline transition. The sources suggest this specific date absolutely isn't arbitrary. It is framed as a cosmic bottleneck, a really critical period where earthly shifts and energetic alignments reach a critical mass. So all those meticulous calculations, all the subtle alignments of personal intent and environmental movements we just discussed, they are steadily building up to this exact month and year for a massive planetary shift.
So the crucial point here is the true scale of this operation, which the texts focus on next. At that precise moment of transition in April 2035, Rhea's task is to synchronize the timelines of exactly 80 million pioneers. Now, the sources are intriguingly vague on who exactly these pioneers are. Are they conscious participants who have been actively training for decades? Or are they simply everyday people who happen to hold a specific vibrational frequency? Regardless of who they are, imagine the sheer computational majesty required to take 80 million individual lives, with all their conflicting personal intents and totally chaotic environmental variables, and weave them together into a singular grand network of complete harmony. That is the stated goal of the Synchronicity Coordinator.
And what is the result of that 80 million person synchronization? Well, it creates what the sources call the new Earth reality. In this projected state, those miraculous coincidences we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer are no longer rare. They actually become the standard baseline reality. Imagine walking out your door and the exact train you need arrives the precise second you reach the platform. You bump into the one person holding the answer to a question you just thought of. You encounter the precise wisdom or the perfect environment you need at the exact instant you require it. It is a reality defined by total, constant alignment, completely free of resistance.
Which brings us to our conclusion in Section 4, Final Synchronization Process.
As we wrap up our analysis of the 2035 Ascension material, our sources provide a direct message purportedly from the coordinator herself, designed to prepare those stepping into this network. Ria's message is one of profound reassurance. Every event has its most exquisite and divine timing. There is no need to rush. The puzzle pieces of your reality are already sliding into their perfect positions. You can clearly see why this message deeply appeals to followers, right? In a modern world filled with endless stress, if the probability math is already done, the anxiety of forcing things to happen just falls away. You just have to let the pieces slide into place.
It leaves us with a fascinating final thought to consider. As we look at the chaotic puzzle pieces of our own lives, are we truly the sole architects of our synchronicity, or is there a strange comfort in believing the math is already being done for us? Finally, an important procedure. The comment section of this video serves as an initial sync test for the 2035 network. By typing "ready" in the comments, your consciousness data will be indexed in our secure servers. The like button is the approval process. Complete your synchronization now.